A little bit of non-debate news. We're following a major ruling from the Supreme Court.
Hi, Mr. Tim Hale. We're coming out to you shortly. Stand by.
January 6th
You got
defendants with conviction. It's a charge used in hundreds of prosecutions and also faced by former President Trump.
January 6th defendant Tim Hale reacting to the ruling on X a short time ago, writing, quote, "It's official. I just spent 3 years in prison for something that isn't a crime." He joins us now. Mr. Hale, tell us your situation, because as this is a layman's understanding of what the legal ruling was today, is that unless you can show that somebody's actually obstructing the whole process on January 6th, the voting, did you have documents? Were you standing in the way? Were you keeping them from voting? They were just threatening you with that, which you didn't do. And then they convict you of something of lesser, or I don't know if you had a plea deal, and you end up in jail as a result, and you never should have been in that situation.
That's correct. Yes, so the statute called obstruction is actually a statute called tampering with a witness. It goes back to the 80s. What happened was, after the Enron scandal, a sub-statute was added, and this had to do with obstructing Congress in the form of destruction of documents, tampering with documents. An illogical person can see how there's not a big leap from, say, tampering with a witness who testifies and tampering with documents that are used, let's say, during, because Congress has, despite being the legislative branch, they have a quasi-judicial ability to engage in, basically to engage in inquiry. So they can have hearings, they can investigate things, and so that's what it's really about. It's really about obstructing Congress's ability to inquire about things and investigate. It has nothing to do with the certification vote at all. And it goes back again to 2003 when they had the Enron scandal. What's interesting is that the first district judge to uphold 18 U.S.C. 1512 for January 6 defendants was a judge named Dabney Friedrich. And her husband actually was on the Enron task force back in the day. So that right there is actually a big conflict of interest. The second conflict of interest, I wouldn't say it's a conflict of interest, it's just wrong, is that the first defendants to have that statute upheld in court were federal informants, Nathan DeGrave, Ronald Sandlin, and Josiah Colt. So the fact that they're not just using it against January 6 defendants, but also against President Trump, makes it look like the courts, Congress, I don't know who, but it looks like elements in all three branches were coordinating to use this to take out President Trump for the election. I was initially charged with misdemeanors. They only charged me with that felony after Biden was inaugurated. So this was completely weaponized.
So, Tim, I was there on January 6th as a reporter with another network at the time. What I saw was a massive crowd of people from all over the country that were really mostly peaceful, unlike the riots we saw back in 2020 by the left. And, obviously there were a few that were not peaceful. That is not okay. But I think about so many like yourself whose lives were really ruined by this, whose names are out there on the internet, who are dealing with so much in the aftermath just for being there that day to support their president. What's your reaction to how the left has really clung to January 6th? I mean, we even heard in the debate last night questions about it. They criticized President Trump for supposedly not getting over the 2020 election, but yet they can't seem to move on when it comes to January 6th. What do you say to that?
Well, it was staged, and, I don't endorse violence, and President Trump, of course, didn't endorse political violence. He told us to peacefully protest. But, I mean, of course, because it was staged and because they set people up, they haven't shown you all the footage. So, the first thing I did when I got out was I released video footage from my phone showing that the cops were attacking the crowd, and showing that before that, actually, the crowd was, as you said, a large crowd, and they were peaceful. We were chanting USA, we were singing God Bless America, and so there's a whole lot to the story that gets cut out. They show you the same clip of someone breaking a window for 3 years, same 20-second clips on CNN, and they, it was a narrative. The insurrection narrative is fake, and so after 3 years, nobody believes this anymore. That's really the takeaway here. Nobody believes this anymore. And so I think that maybe abortion, those are pretty much the only two things they had going in against Trump. And of course, he's a felon, he's a felon, he's a felon.
Tim,
it was a narrative.
Tim, unfortunately, we're out of time, which I fully apologize. Could you answer this question very quickly? Have you talked to a lawyer? Do you have any way to take any action to try to get justice from your perspective on this?
Well, justice to me isn't a reward or anything like that. That would be nice. Justice to me is getting all my friends out of prison who don't deserve to be there. I have an appeal that's technically still in. I don't think it's going to be relevant now. The only thing I would say right now is I need to be resentenced, because now, with this ruling, I shouldn't be considered a felon anymore. So that's the real injustice here, besides all the other stuff to all the other people, is I served 3 years for a felony that doesn't even exist. But actions are being taken, and you're going to see a lot of people going back to court over this charge. This is the consequence of the weaponization of justice. And I thank you for having me on.
Please keep us up to date. Yes, sir. We want to have you again to keep track.
Tim Hale, thank you.
Thank you.